1583 AD, 5477 AM. Thomas Scaliger finished his Julian count, establishing a linear count of days beginning January 1st, 4714 BC, or 819 Annus Mundi. The Julian count is terribly inaccurate beyond any dates before 713 BC, because it assumed that the year has always been 365.25 days, instead of the older 360 days acknowledged by the nations of antiquity prior to 713 BC. Scaliger in this year published De Immediatione Temporum, a study stressing the importance of the ancient chronologies of the Persians, Babylonians, Egyptians and Hebrews. He was fluent in Latin, Greek, Hebrew and Arabic, and was known to have studied at some very rare library collections. 1. The God Kings of Europe, 1585 AD, 5479 AM. Sir Walter Raleigh sponsored the Roanoke colony on an island on the North Carolina coast, but the settlers vanished without a trace. Even Virginia Dare, the first white European settler from England, born in America, was among the missing. The settlers disappeared with food still out on the tables and all their belongings intact. This is referred to as the lost colony. Even the local Indians who were not hostile were baffled as to the disappearance of the English people. A comet was recorded by Europeans in September. 1. Introduction to Comets. 1586 AD, 5480 AM. A volcano at Java, Indonesia killed about 10,000 people. A gigantic asteroid cometary body passed over the ecliptic, passing through the inner solar system on its 92 years orbit after 40 years north of the ecliptic, on its way to collide into North America in 2046 AD, in 460 years, 5520 months. Pope Sixtus V removed the colossal Egyptian obelisk from the Vatican, placed there formerly by Emperor Caligula at the Circus, to the front of St. Peter's Cathedral, where it remains today. The obelisk comes from the city of On, Anu, Memphis, where it had originally been erected by Israelite workers under the Hyksos dynasty in Lower Egypt. The monument stands 132 feet high, or 1584 inches, 792 plus 792. 1587 AD, 5481 AM. Mary, Queen of Scots, was executed after being falsely accused in a plan to kill Queen Elizabeth I of England. Mary had been Elizabeth's prisoner for 18 years, but was actually living quite well and being taken care of. Mary had many Catholic supporters, and this made Protestants allied to Elizabeth very nervous. The plot was hatched to forge documents that served as evidence at Mary's trial to get her executed. Her son was James of Scotland, who would later become King of England after Elizabeth's death because he was next in succession. 1. Infamous murders. 1588 AD, 5482 AM. King Philip of Spain attacks England with the dreaded Spanish Armada in response to the execution of the Catholic Queen Mary of Scotland. About 130 large warships set out from Lisbon, Portugal in May toward Britain. This was essentially a religious war where Catholic Spain sought to impose Catholicism on Protestant England, using the execution of Mary as a pretext. To the amazement of all Europe, the small and poorly outfitted British vessels repelled the Spanish fleet, 54 light vessels against 130 warships. Though the British cannons could hardly penetrate the Spanish armour, their defence provoked the Armada to sail around Scotland. But as they sailed around Scotland, a violent storm laid waste to many of the warships, with the remnant sailing back to Spain in disgrace. The event signalled the end of Spanish naval power and began England's rise as the naval power of the world. 1589 AD, 5483 AM. At Quedlinburg, Germany, 133 people, mostly women, were burned at the stake for witchcraft in a single day. 1. Christ, the Power and the Passion. 1590 AD, 5484 AM. A comet was seen by Europeans in January. Inquisitor Henry Bouquet wrote that in this year almost the entire nation of Germany was busy cutting timber to burn witches. Whole villages lost their female populations to the pyres. At Nice in Silesia, Central Europe, A special oven was made in which mostly women were burned alive inside. In 9 years of use, over 1,000 women, including children 2 and 4 years old, were roasted alive. The Roman Catholic agents throughout Europe had a tremendous power over the minds of the laity because 90% of the commoners were illiterate and they blindly accepted what was told to them, deferring to the erudition of the priests, not knowing that this sadistic program had nothing to do with actual witchcraft. This insanity that claimed millions of innocent lives throughout Europe over the centuries would never have occurred except for the avarice of the Roman Catholic papacy. 1. Introduction to Comets. 2. Christ, the Power and the Passion. 1593 AD. 5487 AM. The Black Death strikes London. A first appearance of this plague in London, and it would strike a total of 5 times in the next 72 years. The final appearance being 1664 to 1665. 1. Mask of Nostradamus. 1596 AD. 5490 AM. A comet is recorded by Europeans. German astronomer David Fabricius watched the star Mira brighten for weeks and then fade into obscurity. In 2007 AD, a spectacular photo of this star was taken, showing an ultraviolet light picture of a 13 light-year long tail like a stellar comet. 1. Introduction to Comets. 1600 AD, 5494 AM. After 8 years of imprisonment, Giordano Bruno is burned at the stake by the Roman Church for making scientific assertions in opposition to fundamental theological tenets. 1. Book of the Hopi.